study has been on the automation and soil management of the vegetable industry. So thanks, Stephen.
My name is Steve Newman. I'm a 2010 Nuffield Scholar. And I'd like to thank very much Horticulture Australia for being my sponsor. It's good to have someone that backs you like that all the way. Our farm is an intensive vegetable farm, cropping our land at least 2 times a year. We plant and harvest nearly every week of the year. It's 25 hectares of set irrigation over 2 blocks, and our main crops are cauliflowers and leeks all year round, and we do lettuce in the summertime. It's interesting, some people around the district call us the United Nations because we have Cambodian people, Sudanese guys and Indians all working together in the one place. I'm a 6th generation vegetable farmer, and it's said my 3 times great grandma was reported to be the first to sell vegetables on the banks of the River Torrens in Adelaide, which, as you can see, our farm is about 50 kilometres from where we're standing at the moment, where I'm standing, should I say. It's close to the Adelaide CBD, so we can get to airports or wherever we need to get. It's close to the Karaka markets, so we can have our produce in the market within an hour from our farm, which is pretty important these days because freshness is everything to our customers. So that gives us a bit of an advantage, I definitely think. But most importantly to us, we're close to the labour market, which gives us a lot better draw on labour. There's a lot more people in the Adelaide area than there is in some country towns. So, my study topic, the use of labour and machines in vegetable production. And I wanted to find out what was happening on farms every day, what they were using at farm level, and harvesting equipment. So, off I went, travelled around to the USA, New Zealand, UK, Holland, Italy, Belgium, France, Ukraine, Bahrain and India. The reason for my travel was in 2008, the unemployment level was pretty low, so there was a lot of jobs going in factories, so a lot of our labour actually left and went and worked in factories. In the factory they can work undercover, mostly air conditioning, and you don't have to bend over, cut cauliflowers, broccoli, anything in the field. You don't have to work in the rain, in the hail and the hot sun. So that was pretty much why I took up the study topic. So off I've travelled to these countries and I'm looking for the silver bullet, that magic machine. I wanted a machine that would actually cut cauliflowers, put them in the box, and virtually send them to market without anyone touching them. So this magic machine was going to solve all of my problems. I wouldn't have to worry about anyone in the morning springing up saying we're not coming today. So I thought, this has got to be the thing. So I thought, here we go, around the world, first stop. What are they doing in California? Salinas Valley in particular. It's said to be the salad bowl of the world if you talk to the Americans. But it's definitely the salad bowl of America. And I thought, this magic machine, it's got to be somewhere around here. But when I got there to Ocean Mist Farms, pretty large farm in the northern part of the Salinas Valley, they were cutting by hand with a group of Mexicans. As you can see in the slide, there's probably 20, 30 people on this slide. Here they are, still cutting by hand, putting them on belts. And the interesting part is they were going onto belts back into this little hut in the back where they were flow wrapping them. So they were flow wrapping the cauliflowers as they come through, and these people in here were wrapping them up So they were ready, and a lot of it was, I think they were putting barcodes and labels on them too. Then packing them straight into cartons, and off they go onto a trailer, where they're taken back to be cooled off straight away, back to their cooling facilities, then shipped to their customer. Which cooling over there is pretty important. To get not an hour from the cut to the cooling means that their produce will last a lot longer. And when you've got to ship it from California to New York, which is some days a 7-day trip, it's pretty important. There was some farmers I spoke to over there that were growing baby leaf salad, but they said 7 trailers just never made it. They would be broken down, not good enough by the time they got over there, so they were rejecting whole 7 trailer loads, which I thought would be rather expensive. So I still didn't find that magic collie machine, and as we were driving around with my host, we found some lettuce, and over in America, they seed the lettuce at really high density, somewhere around 150,000 seeds an acre. So, and then they thin them down by hand back to about 40 or 60,000, which is a pretty big job. And here you can see, if I can get the pointer in the right spot, they're the lettuce that are left. They're the ones that are going to grow into lettuce. All of those lettuce there, those plants there, have all been thinned by hand. I said there must be a machine that will take that out and thin them to the right distance. I said, my host said, yeah, there sure is, but it knocks the density down, so the population per acre is not high enough. And he said, we just don't get the pack out. So it's actually costing them more to do it with this machine than what it was to send a team of Mexicans in with a 9-inch hoe, and they got 9 inches between every plant. So it makes it pretty easy to go when you've got a hoe that does that. So I never found that machine there. So I got off to New Zealand. Here we can see they're planting lettuce. Still semi-automatic machines, 1 person per row, a couple of people following up the lettuce, fixing any plants that the person was too slow. Because as a person driving that tractor, you try and sneak up every now and then just to make it go a little bit faster so those guys keep planting a bit quicker. So there's a few misses. If you get a few misses, that gives the guys something to do at the back. But in Australia, we're going towards automatic transplanting machines. And I spoke to the guys here and said, why aren't you using automatic machines? He said, don't worry, we've got one in the shed. Oh, that's pretty good. He said, yeah, it's covered in dust, we don't use it anymore. It was too technical. The staff couldn't use it. They didn't know how to get it working properly. So we said, give it away, and we've gone back to this way. It's just so much easier to use. So, well, there's a good point too. Harvesting in New Zealand, they're still doing a lot by hand without even aids. So there's no belts or chains or anything like that. They're cutting their broccoli, putting them in crates, sending them back, packing them in the shed, and then sending them off to the customer. But with a bit more investigation, I found that Leader brand was one of the largest producers of lettuce in New Zealand, were cutting theirs with aids. Very similar to the American system. And they would put them in, they'd bag them on the spot. These guys were here bagging them on the spot. They'd be packed into boxes, clip locked with like a bread tag, onto the trailer, back to the shed, and then off to Auckland to be sold. So that was a pretty quick way. It showed me that the guy had been out, and that's exactly what they told me. He'd been over to America 10 years previously or something of that nature, and brought this machine back to New Zealand. So it definitely saved them a lot of labour because they could just go straight in and ship them off to the customer. There was no double handling. But I still didn't find that magic machine in New Zealand. It was still eluding me. So they're off to the UK. They must have something up there. Here I found they're still cutting cauliflowers by hand. They're putting them in these cups. The cups would go around the tractor and into the back of the machine, where they pack them into boxes and put them into the trailer. Very similar to the US. So everyone was doing fuel packing, and then shipped back to the cooling facility and shipped to the customer. But in the UK, some of their flow wrapping of broccoli and stuff like that, they were cutting in the field and then taking them back to pack houses and then shipping them off to the customer like that, so they could have more technical machinery in the pack houses with barcoding and everything like that. But my host in Cornwall was a UK Nuffield scholar, Ellis Lockhurst, who told me about varieties and the difference that could make. In Australia, we can cut cauliflowers 2 to 3 times to go, sometimes 4 passes to get that harvest right, to get the number of collies that we're looking for, to make it, to bear the field, you could say. But with different variety selections, he's saying we could go back to 2 cuts to 3 cuts even, and be finished. So that would definitely save us a lot of labour straight away. So variety was something that I come home and kept in the back of my mind all the way. And I thank Ellis very much for his contribution to this. He's a magnificent host. Up to the north of the UK, in Boston, big flat area, I must say. Cornwall was very hilly, similar to where we grow in Adelaide Hills, which was good to see that someone else could drive up and down the hill. But in Boston, it was all flat, and here I found that they were using autoplanters. With the variety selections that they were using in Cornwall, they could plant cauliflowers in one time. So you'd have a cauliflower that you would plant that would harvest in 12 weeks, and then at the same time they'd plant one that harvested in 14, 16 weeks. With the climate they've got over there, that could work very well, and it'll be something that could be worth investigating in the hills. So they could plant a bigger area at a time, which made their auto planter much more useful, because on the auto planters you have the driver of the tractor and then you feed the trays. But there is some blokes that might jump out of the tractor and then feed the trays, so they only need one person. But it doesn't happen very often, I would imagine. So I still didn't find that they were harvesting cauliflowers exactly the same manufacturer, machine manufacturer and everything. But the interesting part, just around the corner, we were looking at this machine, is 50 foot wide. They were going through a leek field, harvesting leeks by hand. So they were actually physically pulling them out of the ground, putting them on this machine. It was just a belt that would take them back, they'd wash them, pack them into crates or bins, depending on what they were doing, and ship them off to the customers. But the ones that would go into bins would go back to flow racking and straight into the customer from there, because they didn't have the flow racking machines on a particular rig. But this thing would just literally walk down the field with 50 odd people and strip 50 foot at a time. But I didn't find that magic collie machine there either. So after Holland, I thought this would be the place. Had to be. Everyone says Holland is very, very advanced. The first place I stopped at, they were still cutting by hand, straight up on the belts, field packing, straight to shipped off to the customer, off to the cooling facility, and then shipped off to the customer. But they don't use trucks or anything like we do in Australia. We'd take them to the edge of the field, unload them, put them on a truck, and take them back to the sheds. They just drag the tractor straight out on the road, come behind with a great big grader to grade the mud off, and off they go, sometimes 15 k's with these tractors down the road. And it doesn't seem to worry the people at all. If you start doing that in Australia, we get mud on the road and there'd be someone slipping off it and all sorts of strife. So I thought that was a very good point in Holland. One of the farmers I met here, his cauliflowers are supposed to be green. There's nothing wrong with them. Generally, they're white in Australia, but over there they seem to have a lot of different colours. So that's exactly how they're supposed to look. And I spoke to him about auto planters that they were using in the UK. And he said, no, I don't want one over here. It's not going to save me any money. I can go and get school kids and sit on the back of a semi-automatic planter or my family. It's just not, you couldn't justify the cost of the automatic planter, which I thought was another interesting point. The seed company that's hosted me through this area, walking through their building, you push a button and it opens the doors, the lights all come on automatically. I got my hopes up really high in Holland. They have everything. If you don't have to open the door, they must have something that'll work. But I still cut their collies by hand. Back on the way back to my hotel, we're whizzing along the road, and he stops in. He said, "Have a look at this thing." So we pulled in off the road. I thought, "Oh, here we go." I'm getting a bit excited. It's a machine that sews the leaves of the cauliflowers together at the top. Here in Australia, we go through, fold the leaf over, maybe 2 or 3 days before we go for our first harvest. And so we'll send a team of people, cover the cauliflower so it keeps it white, because I guess most people go to the shops, if you haven't got a white cauliflower, you see a yellow one, no one wants to buy. Believe me, there's nothing wrong with the yellow cauliflower. It still tastes exactly the same. But this machine, €100,000, as it sat there, it's a bit hard, I'm not a very good photographer, but it's firstly attracted with a sewing machine on the front, and it did 5 rows. But for €100,000, I thought I could cover those colours for a fair bit longer yet. But being flat ground, and a lot of people in the same area, they could justify this machine as a contractor. We just go through and sew the leaves together, and the hearts wouldn't go yellow. I hope we got all of them. So I still didn't find that machine. I thought, here we go, off to Italy, to Bologna, to the biggest indoor trade show I'd ever seen in my life. This is a header parked inside a pavilion, and you can see the people standing around. I just couldn't find a photo that would justify the size of this. And it's all indoors, freezing cold outside, so hence indoors. But I've never seen so much stuff in one place. You look in your Sylvan catalogues in Australia and you'll see the rotary hose. There you have one choice. Over here, that's where the Sylvan guys go to find that rotary hose. There's 10 different breeds, different brands of rotary hose, sprays, virtually everything you can imagine. So I'm walking around, first day, couldn't find anything. There must be something with cut cauliflowers here, they got everything else. Second day I'm walking back, still walking around trying to find something. But no machine that was going to do the job for me. But I've never seen so much equipment in one place, indoors in my life. So still, Bologna nothing. Off to Belgium, here we are standing in a leaf paddock, up to our ankles in mud. First dive, got out of the car, put my host had given me a pair of rubber boots, stepped out, foot come straight out the rubber boot, into the mud. It was pretty muddy, which is very similar to what the conditions that we're working in the hills. I thought, here we go. They weren't harvesting collies at the time, but they were harvesting leeks. Collies, it was too cold. The frost had got them and they'd finished for the season. But I did find a leek harvesting machine. As you can see, it's sinking pretty well. It is pretty wet, and it's still working in those conditions. The leeks come up, one driver, leeks come up the top, over the side, into a cage. I thought, this is pretty close to what I'm looking at. And then got all excited, and then I had to think about leeks, they take the whole crop at once, as we do here. We don't have to go through them 3 or 4 times. So this machine even wasn't going to be able to be adapted to what I needed to do at home. But it was good to see that there was a machine that would probably work in our conditions for leeks as well. So we're still pulling them by hand at the moment. We've had a machine in there, but it wasn't working properly. But these ones are definitely worth investigating in the future. But you still have to peel the leek, you still need labour to get them into the shops. So it wasn't going to solve all my problems. So I didn't find that silver bullet. I did find that silver bullet that was in the catacomb caves in Ukraine. But I didn't find the magic machine. I knew we didn't get out of Ukraine. I did find that I need to make, and as an industry we need to make our labour as productive as possible. We need to use the right amount of people for the machine that we've got. As you can see, those 30 odd people in that machine that we had in one of the early slides in California. When I first saw that, I thought they're walking over the top of them, they're not going to get that. The productivity's not going to be there, but it was. They were knocking out huge numbers of cartons of collies a day by having that number of people. If you cut that number by half, they would be back to, it wouldn't make it efficient. And make changes onto your machinery, so adapt them to your farm. little things. Nearly every farm I went to, they changed something about it. So they do a little adaptation here just to make it quicker. It might be a matter of putting a belt here so I don't have to walk to the other side of the ring. It just saves so much time. This is why we in Australia need to be very efficient at what we do. I must make a point that this was done when the Australian dollar was a little bit higher. I'm not sure what it is today, but as you can see, we're about $7 an hour more expensive than the US and 3 more than Belgium. So we need to do everything possible to stay competitive because of our labour rates are so high. Another interesting question, once we got out of the Ukraine, we visited India with Mao here. He hosted us here, I think. He might be in the picture somewhere. Even in India, with 1 billion people, they asked the question there, where will our labour come from in the future? I would have thought that would have been the last place that you would have asked that question. But no one was willing to work on outside under those conditions anymore. If there's a better job, they'll jump ship straight away. So it is going to be a problem in the future, and to have that really brought it home to me that when they asked that in India. So thank you, Mel, for that. What I've learned, understand the culture of your labour, and India was a perfect example. We have some Indian people working for us at the moment. The culture is different. If you can understand that, you'll get a lot more out of those people. They'll work harder for you because you understand. You know where to train them. You know what comes natural to them as you think here. When you grow up on a farm, you naturally just you learn to drive a tractor as you go along, and it comes naturally that you put the clutch in and let the clutch out. But some of these guys, you've got to retrain them because they drive the tractor like an automatic and your clutch doesn't last at all. But also, you can start getting different cultures working together. Here we have a Cambodian man and a Sudanese man working side by side with knives. And it is very entertaining trying to watch them communicate to each other too. English is not their first language, and after travelling to these non-English speaking countries, I understand that even more now, how to explain to the guys that don't speak your language. So the learnings for me were huge, and it just helps you work together. My recommendations to industry is embrace change, manage your labour as most efficiently as you possibly can, otherwise you're not going to be competitive in the market. Do your sums. As we saw with some of those machines, they don't always stack up. That lettuce machine in California, you would think that would be far better than a man walking around with a 9-inch hoe. But it was still costing them more with the machine than what it was with labour. So do your sums. It doesn't fit everyone. Network and share information. I don't know if many people know what the vegetable industry is like. We've got 2 or 3 big customers in Australia, and we're all driving into those customers, so everyone's competing against each other. It's not like a lot of other things where you're all in one industry. We're competing against the next guy because he's going to take my market. So it's hard to network and share information because sometimes that competitive edge can be gone. But if you can get any networking and sharing that you can possibly do, will help your business by far. Lobby governments for a level playing field. After going through, and Bill touched on the EU stuff, the subsidies, I don't fully understand them, and it was hard, but there is lots of other incentives around the world, and the industrial relations side of everyone needs pay rises, but we still need to be competitive with the rest of the world. Go out and see for yourself as much as you possibly can. Sometimes it's not possible, but speak to someone that has been out there and just get as much new information as possible. It's what it's all about. I'd like to thank the Global Focus group that we had for all the information sharing that went on through that particular trip that Bill's touched on. We were dragged, probably Hill and I were more interested in wet markets than a lot of others. Looking through these markets, this is a market in Bahrain, where I don't know, it must have been 35, 40 degrees outside. This is about the cool chain, getting your stuff to market quick. There was no refrigeration in this market at all. You pick up a lettuce, and that was it. But I must warn anyone that goes looking for wet markets, go to them at the end of the time you spend at the country, because otherwise you'll wonder what you're going to eat for the rest of the week. Once again, I'd like to thank my sponsor, Horticulture Australia, and to Nuffield Australia for giving me the opportunity to get out and have a look and see what's new around the world. And most of all, to my family, my wife and children for backing me 100% and helping me through the whole journey. Thank you very much.
Fantastic, Steve. Some questions from the audience. I'll start with one. Steve, labour, obviously you come back, like labour is really important. I think in every agricultural industry, labour is important.
Yep.
Look, we have a real debate at the moment. I mean, every day over the paper with immigration debate and so on. I mean, what's your feeling on, where's our labour going to come from? Are we going to be relying on it?
Yep, absolutely. I think most of our labour over the years, even from when I was a kid and Dad was employing people, has all been immigrant labour. It's how America runs. It is concerning that some of the countries now that are starting to come to Australia haven't quite got the work ethic that was there in the future. And being in vegetables, it's a tough environment for those people. So I think immigrant work ethic is going to be the future. Because Australian people just don't generally do those